Thanks, Steve. Well, thank you for having me today. Thank you, Steve, for calling me and making it available. I will try to make this as interactive as possible, so feel free to raise your hand or ask questions anytime during the presentation, and if for some reason I'm going to cover it later, I'll just tell you that. If not, I'll be glad to do it. So anyway, what we're going to focus on today is how to get the big picture by focusing on the overall outcomes, either for your company or if you're serving other clients, how to do that, rather than concentrating on commodity sales. In today's world, with the internet and all the access that we have, we tend to get very commoditized very easily. And those people who are still selling based on a commodity or selling based on a product basis, it's going to be a much tougher road because everybody can look up anything on the internet and do shopping. Case in point, my prediction is Best Buy won't be around the next 5 years because everybody goes to Best Buy stores, decide what they want, then they go online and see if they can buy it someplace else cheaper. Unless they change their model, that's going to happen. So this is happening everywhere in every industry. The things that we're going to talk about today will be probing to determine your needs as well as your client's needs as appropriate, how to ask the right questions, offer a campaign to deliver different outcomes, and then how do you build a program or a campaign. Price bidding, I kind of put in here, that's more of a closed industry type thing, but we may touch on that a little bit. And then how do you bill for your time if you're doing this for your clients and not just for your internal costs. And then how do you protect your ideas? Are there any attorneys in the audience before I say that? Okay, good, because I'll put a disclaimer in that later. I'm not an attorney. As Steve said, you know, I've worked with a lot of organizations, have been involved in volunteering and working for many, many years. And I did just last week do the strategic plan for the Beechwood Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. So I know how hard it is to focus people. And a lot what we were doing there was, well, what do you want, you know, your chamber to do? What do you want your chamber to do? And you have to start with a vision. And if you don't have a vision, all the other things doesn't really matter because you gotta know where you want to go before you can get there. So when you're probing for your needs, your customers' needs, you know, you have to look at is it a product solution? Is it a service solution? And a lot of times that's really a symptom of, well, maybe it's a campaign. Maybe there's something more I can do with this from a marketing standpoint. So when you understand the difference between outcome selling and product solution, I was talking to somebody earlier, and it's relationship selling. And yeah, we were talking about that earlier. So, I mean, everybody's heard the term relationship selling, and people will buy from people they know, like, and trust. And what you have to do is you have to enhance that attitude of know, like, and trust, whether you're a big company, a small company, a nonprofit organization, whether you're the city. They really have to know, like, and trust you, don't they, Mayor? You know, I mean, in order to get things going. But that's really the most important part. So you got to understand the outcome. I always like to use talking to the economic decision maker or your buyer. And that's basically who's the person that has the money to buy what you're going to be selling them. And they are your economic decision maker, because many times in sales, we sell to a lot of people, or we try to communicate with a lot of people, and they're real nice and they'll spend a lot of time with you, but they don't have the final decision. So the best thing to do is always find out who the decision makers are, who are the people that hold the purse strings, and try to meet with them up front, even at your first meeting. And it's not that you're trying to insult the buyer or the purchasing agent or whatever. You just want to get in the head right away so that you can talk to them up front. And the person that is responsible is usually the one that, like I said, has the money to do that. Any people ever take any Sandler sales classes in the room? You might know what I'm talking about. They have a technique, it's called go for the no. When you're talking to a client, prospect, you start asking probing questions that are going to lead to a no. Because the sooner they say no, the sooner you know you have to move along and not deal with that prospect anymore. If all the signals are saying yes, 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 then you know you're getting somewhere. And they have a technique of it's okay to say no, it's okay to say yes, but you're not allowed to say maybe. You either want to buy from me or you don't want to buy from me. It's that simple. And it could be, no, I don't want to buy from you right now. I'm not ready for 6 months. That's okay as well. And you have to ask questions that are going to reveal their outcome. And those questions are usually involved with something like, what are you trying to accomplish? When do you need to accomplish this by? You know, what are the financial gains? What ROI are you looking for? And the more you start opening up, and again, this technique works internally as well as externally to people you're trying to sell to. But you gotta get people speaking about what they really want to do. It's not always about, I've got $20,000, I want to spend the money. It's, I want this outcome to happen. I want to be able to reach more people. I want more brand penetration. You know, I just need people to come to an event. Whether it's a chamber event or a community-wide event, you know, what do you want people to do? So I use the expression sometimes, it's called spit in their soup, and the best way to explain this is with a prospect who was going for an ISO 9000 upgrade in their company, and it was an internal marketing campaign. And we're sitting there and he's telling me all the things he needs to do and why it's so expensive and how long it takes, but he was revealing the outcome. And he's revealing it in very subtle ways. Well, we need to do this because our other divisions in our company have done it. It looks good, great for the international market. So I just looked him straight in the face. I said, what happens if you don't accomplish your goal? And he turned right back to me and says, I guess I'm out of a job. So that was a pretty strong signal that I need to come in with a pretty strong campaign that's going to make him look good and make his company look good and sell the 9000 system. Is the ISO 9000 system to his employees, which is what you need to do, explain that. So that's a technique, and you can do that in any kind of sales situation where you just ask that what if question. What happens if you don't accomplish your goal? And that's assuming that you have a strong goal from the person. I always say ask for the B word, and that is, what is the budget that you've been entrusted with to accomplish this task? And anybody that's been in sales, how many salespeople we have in the room? Okay, we all face with this. You talk to somebody and they say to you, well, how much is it going to cost? And I say, well, what's your budget? And they go, well, tell me what it costs and I'll tell you if I have the money. And that's not the same thing. It's not what is your budget? And they may not reveal the budget because there's that wall that people put up when they're talking to a salesman, which is, well, if I tell them it's this much money, they're going to spend it. Somebody who's smart is going to sell based on the outcome, what you need to accomplish. So if somebody says, I got $5,000 to do this project, you know, you're a hero if you come in under $5,000. But you have to be truthful with the prospect as well, or your client, and say, you know, I really can't accomplish what you want to do for $5,000, but here's what we need to do. And a lot of people get hung up on that, and they get hung up on the simple thing of asking for the budget. You know, my father used to have that saying, if you don't ask, you don't get. And that's true in sales, and it's also true in life. If you don't ask for something, you're never going to get it. So, you know, try to avoid the tell me what it costs, I'll tell you if I can afford it syndrome. And that's internally as well, whether you're working on something internally. You need to understand and manage both the internal or your client's expectations. Handle this up front. If you're not asking the question of where you want to go, what do you want to accomplish, then you're just spinning wheels. And you know, if you want to be invited back to the table again, you have to accomplish, you know, the goal at least the first time out, and move towards that. Anybody have any questions on any of that? Okay. When you're delivering a campaign, and when I use the campaign, I use that kind of loosely, but it could be, you know, a single marketing ploy or tactic, or it could be something that goes on for a year or two. So if you're an association and you're trying to reach the community, the buying public, or it's a business-to-business situation, a campaign could be something that goes on for a year, and you just have sub-themes and sub-developments that go throughout that. But a campaign is something that delivers a consistent message, both from a brand standpoint, a visual message, and a message of call to action. And Doug knows what I'm talking about. We talk call to action because, you know, we have similar things that we do, but whenever you're doing anything in marketing, you have to have a call to action, which is basically, what do you want the recipient to do? What do you want the prospect to do when they get your message, they get your mailing, they get your ad? And people sometimes forget about that. They're so entrenched with the ego of their advertising marketing that they forget to put the other side, you know, put themselves in their prospect's place. So, you know, an example, we're in the promotional marketing industry. We sell promotional products at the Image Group. We sell awards and campaigns and things like that. But a lot of times when we're doing a single ad or a single promotion, not that it doesn't work, you know, it's nice to have. If you're having a community day to hand out a Frisbee or a flyer or whatever it might be. But that's really sometimes a symptom of there's something bigger. You know, what's the overall message that you're trying to do, and what are you trying to deliver consistency? So, you know, if you're looking for direct mail tools, or you're looking for promotional products, or straight advertising, or media, it's what do you really want to do? And you're looking for retention in that message and some long-term viability. You want to rate the campaign to determine your client's outcome to see if it's been delivered. That's very common. A lot of people deliver a campaign and they don't ask the simple question, how did we do? And believe me, when you're spending your client's money or your internal money, somebody somewhere is gonna say, well, okay, I gave you this amount of money, how'd you do? And you better know how to do that. So you need to put things in place from the beginning that either help set up a measurement tool. If it's direct mail, for years, you know, the way to do that was, you know, use a bounce back card, use an offline phone number. Now with the internet, there's a lot of different ways of categorizing, you know, just how you can measure whether that campaign worked. And you can sometimes do it with how many people heard your message, how many people responded to the message, you know, what's the response rate versus the closing rate. But you need to rate the campaign because many times marketing campaigns are not single-sided, nor they shouldn't be. And you need to be able to tweak campaigns. And I don't mean to pick on Doug again, but in the direct mail business, we know that there's something called self-testing. Sometimes you do a couple different cells, you test it, which message is getting the strongest response. Then you roll out the whole campaign. People don't do enough of that. They don't test their market a lot of times. When you're trying to reach even the consumer or the community, it's, you know, what are they looking for? And if somebody taking the pulse of what they want, I know we were talking with the mayor earlier, and you know, if you don't listen to the residents, you don't listen to the business community, then how do you know what to deliver them? You have to know how to do that. Yes, Doug? I don't mean to pick on you, but you're a good target.
My problem, the situation I have, Dr. Consensus at the time, is unrealistic expectations, which you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You ask a person and they want 10 or 12% of, I'm in the mailing business. Well, if you're doing a 60,000 piece mailing, you're asking for a lot. And the reality is, if they got that business, they couldn't handle it all.
Exactly.
That's the reality.
Yeah, case in point is
now he wants to hear that. The mayor's wanting
no, but the case in point is Groupon. Groupon does a great job reaching people, but many times the people that they're selling the services to can't handle that influx of business, and what happens? People get frustrated, they didn't handle me, I get to the restaurant, they couldn't seat me. You bring up a very good point. It's realistic expectations. What can you really do? You know, you're doing direct mail to 60,000 people, you get 0.5% response, you're doing great. You know, if you're trying to get a higher rate, you have to have a much more focused, which is usually a more expensive way of reaching them. We had another question? Okay, I wasn't sure if I saw that. So, but you bring up a good point. So you have to look at how you're going to be measuring the campaign, and you have to think about results. What are the results that you want? And you know, if you're not capable of doing it internally, you don't have the people or the skill set, there are companies out there that can actually be hired to do measurement for you. Sometimes it can be as simple as putting something like SurveyMonkey on the end of a campaign. There's a lot of free ones like SurveyMonkey out there. It could be just as simple as what we're doing here on the forum. You know, what do you want to do? You're taking the pulse of people so that you know how to build the next programs. When you're building a program, and Doug had just said that, you know, is it achievable? You know, a lot of people have a lot of wish lists. That doesn't necessarily mean it's achievable. You have to rate that. You need to look at whether it's an event, what the deadlines are, how much creative time do you need to deliver this message? You know, do you have the time to craft the message with your copywriter, with your graphic designer, with the media, whatever it might be? You know, you need to know what your delivery times are. And you have to coordinate a lot of times with other players. You know, sometimes you're coordinating with a PR agency, or you're talking to somebody at the radio or TV station, or you're talking to somebody in print media. You have to know who's who and what responsibility each person is going to have. If you don't have a theme, it's easy. Make one up. There's no lack of creativity for themes. And a way that you can sometimes use a theme is to use a theme that has longevity. And I was just talking to a client about this yesterday. You can use, I use the example, you have a sports theme. That's your theme for 2013. And every quarter or every season throughout the year, you change it. And so now we'll talk about baseball, and that'll be football, and it'll be hockey, and soccer, whatever it might be. You can use an overall theme in whatever you're doing and do sub-themes throughout that to continue the message, to keep it fresh. Anybody that's in media buying or anybody that's placed ads knows that one ad doesn't cut it. And anybody who's ever said, I placed an ad in the newspaper, didn't get any results. Well, if you only do it once and it's only appearing once, that's not effective. You can't measure that, you know. Hate to throw out industry, you know, terms, but, you know, there's something called frequency and reach. How often am I doing it, and who's my audience? And whenever you're placing ads in newspapers, magazines, or even in the traditional electronic media, it's how often are you doing it and who are you reaching? So you need to do that. You could be the general contractor. You're the ones that could be pulling this together. Whether it's internal or external, if you're the one that's in charge, you don't have to have the skill set to do everything. You can hire people to do the things that you're not good at. And many times that's more effective because you're going to get the expert skills that are needed for that. You know, I'm not an expert at buying radio or TV time. I'll hire somebody that does that. I can analyze it with my client, but that's not my strong suit. I don't do the negotiations with the media. You need to do that. If you need a copywriter, you need a graphic designer, there are people out there that's their skill set. Let them do what they're good at, and you do what you're good at, which is manage the campaign. So one of the things that you need to do, whether it's internal or external, how many people think they do an effective job of brainstorming new ideas and concepts? Okay. How many people don't think they're creative at all? Good. Usually in the crowd, everybody raises their hand, I'm not a creative person. I believe everybody's creative. It's just a question of exploring ideas and avenues. There's no right or wrong. You know, Steve said, I just did strategic planning for the Beechwood Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors last week. And that's one of the things we talked about was, you know, are you brainstorming among your board to discuss different ways of reaching your goals? And if you're not brainstorming and you're not listening to everybody and everybody's got a great opinion and you don't tear anybody down, there's no such thing as a bad idea. And if it's a great idea, you piggyback on it and you just keep working it till you come out what you think is going to be the right campaign. People don't do that. You know, my time that I spent on the chamber board was very much like that. You know, I'd go to City Hall and, you know, you talk to the council people and, you know, it'd be like pulling teeth sometimes trying to get them on board with you. But if you just sat down and said, well, why don't we all talk about this? We all want the same thing. The chamber wants it from their point of view. You want it from your point of view. Let's all sit together and coordinate the efforts. So brainstorming is important. For those people who are servicing their clients, brainstorm with your client. You'd be surprised how much better the outcome will be if you pull together a team. And one of the main reasons is they've got skin in the game. They can't say it's a bad idea if they were helping shape that idea. So, you know, brainstorm with your team, whether it's internal or external, and you'll find you're going to get a lot better results. That way everybody shares in the responsibility, and you know, not everybody in the room is going to be animated and vocal right away, but give everybody an opportunity to share it. I was doing a job many, many years ago, and I had 10 people in the room, and we were just bouncing ideas back on. We weren't really getting real far. The CFO walked into the room, looked at the whiteboard, came up with an idea, ended up being the winning idea for the campaign, and it's like, maybe because they had a fresh perspective on it, maybe because they weren't so close to the project. It's okay to bring other people in, and it's okay to bounce the ideas off of people that aren't involved with your ideas. You know, get some other opinions. Go to your friends and neighbors or other people in the community and say, what do you think about this? Many times when we're doing rebranding for a client, we'll even take the logo designs and some of the, you know, the taglines, and we'll take it out to people who aren't familiar with the client and say, what's the impression that you get of this? And I think that's important sometimes to run those campaigns by people who don't have a stake in it, who could give you an honest opinion. So again, I know I said friends before, be careful about friends because friends never want to insult you. So it's okay to take it to other people and say, what do you think about this? Is this a good idea? You know, it's a lot better than spending a lot of money in it and finding out it really was a bad idea. So you have to work with the budget. As I mentioned earlier, if there's not enough money in the budget and you think you need to increase it because you can't accomplish what you need to, you can't deliver all the tactics on time or within the campaign, discuss that up front. Don't ever surprise your own internal team or your clients and say, you know, I need another $10,000 or I need another $2,000, whatever it might be. You know, kind of gauge that. That's why you want to have regular meetings when you're working on a campaign to discuss it as it's coming up. Look for multiple ways to deliver a message. I touched on some of that. Display ads, you know, people can help you with that. There's plenty of people in the media, radio, TV, dimensional mailing, which is one of our company's specialty. That's one of our plugs. And you may need other outside services. Maybe you need an artist. You need a PR person, specialist. You need copywriting. You need media. You need printing. You need event coordinator. There are people out there that are willing to do pieces and parts of a project. They don't have to manage the whole thing. And you know what? Your job is a lot easier when you're sitting at the top, kind of like use the term the Godfather. You're controlling the strings, and you're responsible for the outcome, but you have other people doing their job for you. Campaigns equal the total budget, not pieces and parts. Try to get away from that commodity thinking of pieces and parts when you're working on a campaign, or whether you're working on some kind of a promotional activity for your organization or your clients. When you think in total campaigns, you're not hammered by, oh, now this costs this costs this. Just look at the overall thing and work backwards. The best way to work anything is to work backwards, especially if you're doing something for an event or a community event. You want to work backwards. What do I need to do, and put a timeline together. You know what? It's okay to change the rules. That's the way you eliminate if you've got competition. And I use the competition in two ways. If it's an external campaign, you know, and you're trying to reach a client, there's always competition. But competition isn't always for your product and service. It may be for those dollars that somebody's putting towards marketing, but it may not be. Maybe they need a new building. They need a new copy machine, whatever it might be. Competition isn't always in your playing field. So you need to know that. You need to know, you know, do I have sign off on this? But the way to do that is just to try to eliminate the competition with giving them a better way and something that they can't break down, because you don't want to do that. When they start breaking it down, then it becomes a commodity. How much for this piece of paper? How much for the postage? How much for this? Just whatever it might be, just give them the total cost. When somebody says they want to bid on it, that never happens to you, Mayor. You don't have to bid on anything, right? I understand. You know, bidding is one of those words we all cringe at. We all hate RFPs. We all hate doing those things, but it's a necessary evil. And, you know, I hear the reaction all the time, oh, it's our policy. We must take 3 bids. It may be, but that doesn't mean you have to be bidding the same exact thing if you can find a better way and even save the money by accomplishing the outcome, because what they really want is the outcome. They don't really care how you get there. So, you know, when you're looking at bidding, people are not responsible for the outcome, so they don't really care. They're there to make sure that the numbers match up with everybody. If you're doing the same services and products all at the same time, you're going to keep getting the same results. So you got to shake it up. Yes?
Yeah, when we talk about bidding, do you find it difficult to get clients to focus in on results, or do you say, okay, we're working on this result, we're going to do it this way? Do they go back to the other people and say, okay, now I want you to bid on these?
Sometimes that is a common risk that people talk about. Well, if I give a great idea, guess what? My competition gets that great idea. That goes back to the relationship you have. It's all based on relationship selling. I'm very bold when I go into a prospect or an existing client. I will work hard for you. I'll come up with ideas all day long. But if you're going to take my ideas that you really like and then shop them, you have 2 choices. It'll be the last time you'll deal with me, or you can pay me a consulting fee for giving you the ideas that I didn't execute. And it sets up a respectful situation. It's not always easy, and it's not always going to work. Some people say, well, you know, we just have to do that. So you do run the risk. In marketing, a lot of times you have to to spill a little candy to get people to know, like, and trust you. You have to throw some ideas out there that they know that you have the ability to do that. But when you sit there and you know, play the unfair game, which people will do, it's difficult. It's difficult stamina, but you have to make a choice. Do I continue going to this route, or do I take the high road? And it only happens a few times. And you know, I've got clients now who call me up and go, we want these ideas, we like your ideas. Now on the other side of the coin, if somebody comes up with a great idea, I don't think it's fair that they should come to me to price it out. You know, give respect to the person who gave the idea. It's an interesting concept, it doesn't always work every day, and I would say it probably works about 70% of the time. There's always going to be that percentage of people that are, yeah, that's great, you know, I have no respect for you. And I think with the internet, there's less loyalty than there used to be, and when the economy started going down in 2008, there's even less loyalty. That's why you have to deal with people that are going to know, like, and trust you. And that's what it's all about. It's all about building relationships that they know that what you say you're going to deliver. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just thinking like you could become the Best Buy of marketing.
I mean, you can, but like I said, I don't let people do it more than once. I've told people, I said, why do you keep calling me? Well, your name's in my Rolodex. I go, great, take my name out of your Rolodex. Don't call me again. It's like, you know, why do you want to waste your time and have somebody else do all the credit? But sometimes those are games that you have to play when you're first getting into an account. But if you start and you set it up, you get a better chance of getting the respect. You know, I don't want to feel like Rodney Dangerfield, but you just got to do that. So, you know, ideas typically equal solutions. If you come up with the right ideas, they're going to be focused on the solution. I like to always keep in mind when I'm doing a campaign that has a lot of moving parts, I talk in the term of cost per contact. What's it cost to reach that person? I'm not going to pick on Doug because he knows that, but it's what does it cost to get something to you, to influence you? And you know, it's real easy in the media to say, you know, well, it costs $10,000 for this full-page ad. But do you really know who read that ad? Can you really measure it? And if you don't have a call to action, or you're not going to really know who read that. But if you're doing something either more viral or something that you can put some meat to it, you can actually put a cost per contact. And the best way to do that is you say to your client, would you spend $30 to take your best client out to dinner? 99% of the people say, sure, if I could just get at the table. Well, let's try another avenue. Let's communicate with them a different way. Let's find a different way to do it. And even in today's social media world, you can do that if you focus your social media. People still think that banner ads are the way to getting people on social media, and it's not. It's constant penetration and getting people to understand how you do what you do, and eventually, you know, that works for you. So I always like to say, like, cost per contact. Before you talk to your prospect, your client, or internally, you need to know, especially externally, how are you billing for your time? You know, the old model of charging by the hour, the old agency model, really doesn't hold as much as it used to be. People would rather determine by the project. And if you do it that way, you know, a lot of people say, well, that's really tough. What if, you know, I quote $5,000 and I'm already into $6,000 and I haven't finished it? Well, there's two things. It's a learning situation. You won't price that out again. But if you hold your ground, you're going to get more respect from the client because they've already committed those dollars. And even whether it's internal marketing, if somebody says, you know, hey, I can only spend $5,000 on this or $2,000, you know, stay within those parameters. But another way that you can do it if you're working for working externally for your clients is you can charge by the project, and you should be able to get a consulting fee for what you're doing. You know, it's a respectful situation. Consultants do that all the time. They get respect for it. Why don't people who are selling other products and services get respect? So, you know, it's okay to charge for it. You know, we talked about before, you know, charging for the plan that somebody else implements. If you're getting a consulting fee for it, yeah, let somebody else go and buy it. Let them have the credit hassles and that kind of thing. You don't want to do that. Ideally, you like to control the whole thing, but sometimes you have to do that. Don't price by the item. When I say the item, the pieces and parts that are going into it, because then you do run the risk that somebody's going to say, well, you know, I know somebody who can do this part of it cheaper, and I know somebody who can do this part of it cheaper. And, you know, your client runs the risk that, you know, too many cooks. And you're not going to get any synergy with your campaign. So it's always better to try to keep it in one hand and, you know, be the hero and be that one hand. Okay, I said I was going to give you a little bit of a legal statement, and it's not legal advice, I'm not an attorney. But when you're doing big contracts and big proposals, you should always put copyright, your company name. It's okay to put confidential trade secrets. It kind of sets up the fact that you're a professional. And if you put that on your documents, people will respect that. Doesn't mean that they're not going to shop you anyway, or they're not going to give the ideas, but you're setting up that possibility that they're going to respect you better. Sometimes if you ask up front with a client that's producing you know, a new product or a new brand or a new message, if you ask for the non-disclosure agreement up front, it sets you up as the professional. They might say, oh, it's not necessary, but if you acknowledge the fact that you're imparting trade secrets to me that maybe you don't want anybody else to get out till the campaign's out, sign an NDA. You know, a non-disclosure form is, it protects both parties. I think it just sets up a new amount of respect for it. And there's different types of non-disclosure forms out there that people use, from the simple to the extravagant. And sometimes it only helps one party, and a true non-disclosure should help both parties. But you know, anybody who's ever done the RFPs knows that most of the time the non-disclosures are for the person that's giving you the chance to bid on something. And you know, but it's okay to challenge it and say, well, you know, what about our rights? What about our protection? I saw the mayor shaking his head. I'm sure you see a lot of those. But you know, sometimes you don't want information to leak out, and I understand that. So a lot of what we discovered was probing to determine your customer's needs, asking the right questions, offering a campaign as opposed to an individual product or service, and then building that. We talked about price bidding, billing for your time, and protecting your ideas. And I went kind of quick on that. I was trying to keep this off to a half hour, but I'm happy to answer any questions about anything I talked about, or things that maybe were on your mind as I was going through that. So I'll put up my little, you know, thank you and question and answers. Anybody have any questions?